It's a tricky thing. People can watch on a lot of different channels. We've got the John Cullen Investigates channel. And of course, we're really appreciative of the viewer sponsors who make the show possible by becoming sponsors on subscribestar.com/IamJohnCullen, patreon.com/IamJohnCullen, and subscribestar.com. There you go. Just went live. And, Patreon and Subscribestar is where it's at. So thanks to all the sponsors. Thanks to everybody who was waiting patiently at the Johnny Hoover channel. Simulcast activated. So what do we got tonight, John?
That's good news. Well, we got a lot of content. I have a couple videos that we're going to watch with our patrons. So the last couple of weeks, when we get to our patron-only show, that's where we go through the video clips because we can't really do that sort of thing here on YouTube. And a lot of the content that we're talking about tonight is so sensitive that I'm afraid I can't really get into it too much on this part of the show. I don't know if you're aware of what happened, but Steven Crowder, Louder with Crowder,
so he got a strike.
So he had the gubernatorial candidate from Arizona. Her name is Carrie Lake. And, I never heard of this lady, but, until she started to get into this game and Trump supported her. So he had Carrie Lake on his show, and he has a big channel on YouTube. He's got 5 or 6 million subscribers. I mean, he's
a little too frat bro for my taste.
Well, that's what he is. I mean, it's a frat bro show.
Yeah.
There's a whole bunch of these 30-something guys that, still care about their frat stuff. So that's kind of what the show is. And he wears
like a stop or two underexposed every single show. What is going on?
Well, so am I, right? You got to tell me if I got to change my exposure.
No, you're good.
So, all right. So he wears his gun on the show. Interestingly, he has the same holster that I do. He wears the same holster, but I don't wear mine when we record.
Who's he going to shoot on his own show?
I don't know. But you know what's funny? I wear that same holster. Okay, so I carry my gun in that same holster. It's a Galco. It's the Miami Vice holster, and I take it off basically to sleep and to do this show.
Wow.
That I take it off to do the show. Crowder puts it on, right?
Yeah, so he's ready to shoot somebody.
Yeah, so that's what he's wearing.
The
first two on the left. The first two on the left.
Always wearing the gun lifestyle.
Yeah, well, when you're me, when you're me and Phil Haney got killed, you do it.
Oh, here's Don Johnson shooting somebody.
There you go.
Don Johnson has got
nobody wore
power.
Pink better. No man wore pink better than Don Johnson.
What he has been able to do is something that not a lot of people can do. Like, he's come back now, and I think people take him more seriously now than they did when he was a TV star,
That's possible. Well, the point is that Steven Crowder has a gubernatorial candidate on, right? So she's running for governor, and she's telling her story, and as part of the story, they start talking about, hypothetically, the 2016 election. Right, which Hillary said, there was all kinds of monkey business there in her book, right? So so you're not allowed to say certain things. So certain elections you're not allowed to talk about. So certain years you are, certain years you're not. Like, you can talk about the one in 2016 that Hillary explains was a disaster, right? And that the Russians had something to do with. But you're not allowed to talk about any of the other ones since then.
This is just so crazy. Oh, here's his second strike. I see.
Yeah. So he's been bad.
Oh no, but this
is a guy with 6 million subscribers, a gubernatorial candidate, and they don't care. They just, again, somebody decided that you can't hear that.
John, he's operating relatively unscathed. The fact that he still has the same channel and was allowed to build to the kind of size that he was. I mean, we have had, and it's not just YouTube, it's outside agitators. Evidence seems to indicate the stupid Mario brothers, who are just constantly combing through every single thing that's ever been done and striking things that are 5 years old. They kept that Jason Goodman channel off, and it has so dramatically reduced our reach. It's really bad. So I want to thank all of the viewers that are with us and that sponsor the show and make it possible.
Indeed. Well, why don't we jump over to the deck, and I'll share some slides with the YouTube audience that I can share.
But did we figure out why you're Mr. Freeze?
Well, we're gonna get to that in 2 or 3 slides. It's going to be explained. So we'll come back to the thumbnail, but the hours that it took to get me into costume for that shot, I hope the audience appreciates that. Absolutely. All right, so slide number 1. This week, I topped 5,000 followers on Twitter.
Oh, congratulations.
Yeah, isn't that exciting? So
that is good.
So I now have over 5,000 followers on Twitter, and I'm following 222 people or things or whatever. So that's what's happening there. On the next slide is a link to an FDA document that I found a few months back. We've talked about this on the show. The link is in the top, so you can, if you want to bring it up live, you can. FDA.gov/media. And if you want, I'll read you the number. It's 153716/download. So if you go to FDA.gov/media/153716/download, you should come to this document. And the portion of the document that I've highlighted is the portion of the document that's from the FDA, right? So we're at FDA.gov. And this is the portion that explains the different formulations of the Pfizer vaccines. And it seems that there's 2 different formulations. And is that what's coming up when you type in that document? No.
Yeah, I mean, you got to give me links, man. I can't be typing crap here. The screen is a mile away from me. I can barely see.
Well, the link... All right, so the link is at the top of the document in the slide. So you can just show it. Yeah, there you go. Just show it to everybody. So that's the link. So everybody, if you guys want to, take a quick screenshot of that and type that in, you can do that.
How is this not it? Because there's a question mark that we don't want. That got stuck in there. FDA.gov/media 153716/download. There you go. That's it. So that's you're at the FDA. Right? You're at the FDA's website. You're looking at a document about Pfizer Comirnaty in real time. And if you pop back over to the slide deck that I just sent you, one of the pages here in this document, I highlighted this segment that says that the Pfizer COVID-19 vaccines for individuals 12 years of age and older contain one of the following sets of additional ingredients. Ask the vaccination provider which version is being administered. Potluck vaccine. I like it.
This sorta, right? It's like, is that turkey or chicken? I don't know. Is
Secret
it turkey
Santa.
or chicken? What's the difference? They both.
They should hold it behind their back and make you pick one.
Exactly. So
make it a game.
In the it tastes like chicken type. Let's just kind of lump it in there. There's 2 different formulations, and it says ask the vaccination provider which version is being administered. And you see that there's these 2 different versions. I've talked about this with Dr. Judy on the radio show, and she hadn't heard of trimethamine, meaning it's a fairly new formulation. Yeah, and she had to look it up. It's another one of these stabilizers. We'll call it a stabilizer. And you mix it with sucrose, and it replaces... Go ahead.
It makes... So, trimethamine solution for injection. This is from the Cleveland Clinic.
There you go. That's it.
This makes blood and urine more alkaline or less acidic. It is used to treat metabolic acidosis, a condition where the body produces too much acid. Wow.
That's when it's used. So that's when it's used
by itself.
Here it's right. Here it's simply being used as a stabilizer. Right. So we're not using it. We're not using trimethamine to treat anything here. They're using it as a stabilizer.
It in your body.
Yeah, but I think that the question that I've had all along is, why did you guys come up with a new formulation? What was wrong with the first one? Why would you bother doing it? You know, it's like if you're International House of Pancakes, how many formulas are there for the pancakes? 2?
Well, the
Are
pancakes
there
actually
2 formulas?
work, though. When you go
What's
there,
that?
the pancakes work, so they only need one formula.
Well, what if they had 2 different formulas for the pancakes? And you're like, well, you know, let me ask my server, which pancakes are we getting? Are we getting the pancakes that were made with baking soda, baking powder, salt, and sugar? Or are we getting the pancakes that were made
You got
with
the cement ones.
aspartame and these other ingredients? So the fact that they just have said, well, there's 2 different formulations and they're somewhat interchangeable. Ask your vaccine provider which one you're getting. And I never understood, why would you have 2 different formulations? What is the point of this? Now we know that they came out with another formulation for children that has something in it called tris. And that's kind of separate, so we're not even going to talk about that in the show.
But I have one other question.
Yeah.
What are you going to say to your vaccine provider if they tell you it's one or the other? You're like, oh.
Well, what happened was, right before last week's show on Friday, I had the opportunity to sit down for an interview with Brooke Jackson. And
Right.
Brooke is the whistleblower who was overseeing clinical trials. And I
For
can't
Pfizer.
even tell you. No. So for a contractor to Pfizer. So she's not an employee of Pfizer. She's working for a company that Pfizer hired. And in fact, I didn't even post the video on YouTube because it's too
Where
hot.
did I
It's
see
on
it?
Rumble.
Oh, I saw it on.
It's on Rumble.
On Rumble. Okay.
Yeah, in fact, go back to my deck. I've got a picture of the Rumble thing on the deck. And sort of the theme of the show when we go to our patron-only hour is, what was the impetus behind this second formulation of this inoculation? What was wrong with the first formulation? And when I sat down with Brooke Jackson and listened to her story, it kind of came together. And I said, whoa. Is this the reason for the version with trimethamine? So tonight when we go to patron only, we have an excerpt from that interview that we're going to play for our patrons, where
Nice.
Brooke Jackson shares with the audience what she witnessed. I believe this may be the reason. Now, I could be wrong. It could have
This is a
nothing to
breakthrough.
do with
Let
it.
me just say, I saw this segment. People are going to want to watch this.
This is big. This is big. Now, you can watch the entire interview. It's about an hour and a half. It's on Rumble. That's on the next slide. If we jump ahead to the next slide, it's on Rumble. The title of the video is Heroes of the Pandemic. Brooke Jackson joins, hypothetically speaking, and I can tell you, it was too hot to put it on YouTube. I was afraid
They would definitely
wouldn't
ding
last.
it.
Yeah, it was too hot. So she has a real lawsuit, and what I'm thinking is I'd like to invite her to come on this show with you, with her lawyer, because I know you're going to have a million law questions, and her lawyer will be in a good position to answer that stuff. So I think that would be a great show. I'm going to, you're interested in that, right? If I can get Brooke and her lawyer to come on to talk about the legal aspects of the case. So what's interesting is she's suing 3 different companies. She's suing the company that she worked for, the company that hired her company, and Pfizer are all named in the lawsuit. So it's a fascinating
Now, how come
story.
I'm not seeing it here?
On the Rumble. It's not on Rumble.
I don't know.
Here, it's the first one, Heroes of the Pandemic.
I
you
didn't
don't see her.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah, you see,
There we go.
because Rumble, for some reason, when I upload stuff to Rumble, it doesn't let me pick my thumbnail. Even when I pick my thumbnail, it overrides it and it picks it for me. So I have no say in my thumbnails on Rumble. Yeah, so that's why you see all kinds of, obscure thumbnails there. I can't.
John, I
force.
like Rumble, But I'm very curious about something. You and I have been discussing this. They have this breaking news this week. They're announcing a major step toward the merger here with Cantor Fitzgerald. This is so strange to me because, of course, Howard Lutnick is the CEO of Cantor Fitzgerald. Normally, Rumble is super interested in promoting videos for Alan Dershowitz and, people who are kind of like friends with Jeffrey Epstein, and Howard Lutnick lived right next door to him. So pretty weird.
Yeah. Well, anyway, that's what we're gonna dig into when we go patron only. I got a couple other interesting things to share with our YouTube audience before we have to make the switch over. That's the full document. We can go through that with our patrons. Let's bounce back over to the deck. I got a couple interesting slides. I want to show you guys. Yeah, so this is interesting. I did a video on depletion of susceptibles. What it is, why does it matter? It's mostly Rosalind Ego speaking at TED, but with my 2 cents added, and YouTube is advertising over it.
Yeah, what is that? That's your video with a YouTube ad, but they don't let you monetize the channel.
Right. So the channel's not monetized, but YouTube is making money on my channel, even though I have questionable content.
But the thing that's important is that they say, we're not monetizing your channel because the videos are not suitable for advertisers, but we'll advertise on it and get the money.
Right.
How are they allowed to do that? That's what I'm showing you
guys. That's the hypocrisy of it. So, again, it's great to be here. I love being able to do videos on YouTube, but YouTube's advertising on top of my video. I don't make 2 cents. So when people see that, they think I'm making money. Right. I haven't made $1 from YouTube. All right, let's jump ahead. We have 1 or 2 more slides.
That hurts us, John, because it causes people to say, oh, well, I'll just watch the video and he's getting money from the ads.
He's getting paid. Right. It creates a perception, no doubt. So the next slide is something that happened on Monday that kind of blew my mind, which was Forbes came out with a story about the 1918 Spanish flu. And they published this on Monday of this week. I said, well, out of the blue, Forbes is doing a story on the Spanish flu and the resurrection of it. Who's been talking about this other than us anywhere? That all of a sudden they would do a story. It just seemed odd that out of the blue they would. In other words, we're in the midst of coming out of a COVID-19 pandemic. We're in the midst of the beginning of a monkeypox pandemic. We've got polio in the sewers in New York.
Yeah.
And Forbes is doing an article on the Spanish flu from 1918.
There are a few pandemics behind.
It seems odd. In other words, now we're in the midst of the monkeypox and the polio. Now you're going to do this story? That seems odd. Okay. All right. We've got to jump over in just a minute or two if you think we can share some data. All right. So what we have here is a slide that's showing women in the United States that died with COVID between the ages of 18 and 50 compared to everybody else. So women between the ages of 18 and 50 represent less than 2.5% of all the COVID deaths in the United States.
Basically.
And pregnancy age, teachers, the women athletes. Athletes, college
supermodels.
Women, the people who work at Starbucks, right? If you work at Starbucks. But teachers, we know that teachers, 77% of the teachers in the United States are women. And a good number of them are between 18 and 50. Not that there aren't teachers that are older than 50, but there's not a whole lot of teachers that are younger than 18. We know that. So teachers fall into this category. And when you see that less than 2.5% of the deaths were this group, it's not a big segment of the COVID death play. So women 18 to 50 don't really make up that big a portion of the deaths. They're not what you would consider a high-risk group compared to the other stuff. Now, if you take that same segment, go one more slide, and say, all right, well, what about 18 to 50 men? What happened there? And this is where we see this recurring phenomenon, where the ratio of men to women, where 43,000 men died, whereas less than 26,000 women died. So it's a 62 to 38% ratio, men to women. Now, if it was reversed and 62% of the deaths were women and 38% of the deaths were men, would we feel differently? I don't know.
I don't think most people know about this.
I don't think most people have a clue about this. I think this is one of the best kept secrets in the world of COVID, is what's happening here. All right, we have one more thing we can share with the audience, which is your city, New York City, and Kathy Hochul, the state of New York. Kathy Hochul is the governor. She took over when Andrew Cuomo stepped down in disgrace, in absolute utter disgrace. When he stepped down, Kathy Hochul stepped in, and she just signed an executive order. She just signed it, declaring a disaster emergency in the state of New York, as New York continues to experience COVID transmission, with the rate of new COVID hospital admissions remaining at over 100 new admissions a day. She declares this disaster emergency with executive order. Now, if you go to the next page, there's only 34 kids that died in New York City between birth and 17 years old. So that's elementary school, junior high school, and high school. 34 kids. I think 34 kids fell off the subway last year. I mean, this is not a big number compared to the 35,000 people plus that died in New York City.
How many people got shot in the last week?
Yeah. So these are not big numbers. Kids are dying from other afflictions. More children died in childbirth in New York City than died from COVID. So if that's the case, maybe that's where we should be focusing our attention, is what's happening in the delivery room. So when Kathy Hochul extends this emergency declaration and says this is what's happening, and I'm looking at this and saying there's 34 kids have died in the city. What are you talking about?
She's a terrible governor. I thought it was pretty interesting that Andrew Cuomo, people were like, even Andrew Cuomo is coming out to condemn the FBI after they raided Mar-a-Lago. Well, of course, he's just another one who's among the people who want you to believe that the FBI should not be trusted and can't investigate anything.
Well, because they're coming to his house next.
Right.
So the FBI is knocking on his door next week. So
he wants them to be thoroughly discredited. Listen, John, we've got to cut it off here, and we're going to continue the conversation on the sponsor exclusive segment, which is coming up right now. People can join us on subscribestar.com/IamJohnCullen, patreon.com/IamJohnCullen, and subscribestar.com or patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth. We couldn't do this show without you guys. So thanks to everybody who's sponsoring the show and keeping us on the air. If you enjoy these YouTube shows and want it to continue, please become a sponsor right now. You can join us in 4 minutes for the sponsor exclusive segment. It's coming up right after this.